Hey, Johnny C. How you doing, man?
All right. How are you, Adam?
I
Pleasure to
am
hear.
good. We are live with the people who move, and man, I will tell you, you are the person that moves mountains for me for past what, almost 15 years now. We've known each
Close.
other for a lot of years. So, hi everybody to our millions of fans out there in the global world and the earth. Adam Zembruski with Hospiamo. We've got John Cardonia, hotelier, operator, chief engineer extraordinaire, builder, construction manager. You have a lot of titles, John.
Too many hats.
Um, the most friendly title I can say, the most proud one, is the fact that you're a friend of mine and a friend of Hospiamo. And a lot of people ask what Hospiamo is all about, and you never have, because you get it. You also get that there's no need to define something as you're building something, right? So
Absolutely right.
we've been building something together, and you've been a big part of my life and the life of Hospiamo. And so thank you for that.
Been an
And
enjoyable path.
it's Thursday, November 2nd. We just had a nice little Halloween. John, I thought about wearing my favorite hippie wig with my bandana and glasses, but I chose not to. And the reason I chose not to is because we're talking about something that's pretty sensitive and very real today, that has to do with a lot of people out there that might be struggling with something. And we're talking about the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurants, and working in kitchens, and people that might be struggling with something, whether it be some sort of challenge at home. They could be uh, challenged with something that has to do with alcohol or drug addiction, and they're trying to fix something in their life. But our industry in hospitality, we serve others, and the best ones that I've been affiliated with is we serve each other, which empowers us to serve our guests, right?
Exactly.
And you and I have talked a lot about the topic of that it is, 90% of the days might be unrewarding. It might seem like, what am I doing this for? Why am I keeping these guests safe? Why am I cooking this food um, that I'm putting my heart and soul into, and I'm not getting any feedback? And I'm getting yelled at by a boss, or I'm getting yelled at by somebody else, and you just have a bad day. And then you come back and you have a great day, and everything is wonderful. And so we often say in our industry is that it is an emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely.
So that's the topic of what we're talking about today. And the topic is the emotional roller coaster, and how it relates to mental health in the as we the hospitality industry is not an industry, right? So, but in the umbrella of our industry is the service industry of serving other people and keeping them safe and happy and secure and well fed and having a good time. But it is an emotional roller coaster. Um, John, in previous conversations, you've talked about gossip. You've talked to me about the positive effects of gossip. You've talked to me mostly the negative effects of gossip and what that might do to somebody's life and career. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit, and it's not going to be very long. We're going to spend about 20 or 30 minutes.
It's fine.
So I just wanted to thank you for being a part of this. This is a very serious thing, and if
Mhm.
you are listening here or watching, you probably have my cell phone number. You probably have my email address. You might have John's, but send us a text and send us an email if you think that this is a good topic for us to talk about every week or every other week. If you think it's a good thing, because our agenda builds each week. we don't really have an agenda, and we do it because we are we want to kind of ride that emotional roller coaster wave about where we go. And so today we're talking about that. We're talking about some uh, we'll call it addiction. We'll call it the disease of alcoholism that we do see a lot in restaurants and hotels. Um, it's a very sensitive topic, right? Um, so you can, if you want to contact me, send me an email at adam@hospiamo.com, HOSPIAMO. John Cardonia also has a Hospiamo email address. It's john@hospiamo.com. And if you're friends of ours and you have our text, our cell phone number, just give us a text and let us know if this is a good topic and what we want to talk about. So, John, I Saturday, the 28th, Matthew Perry
Hmm.
died. And we all know Matthew Perry as on Friends. He's on The West Wing. He's on Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip and numerous other, movies. And man, I got to tell you, I've been trying not to like read like news like every 5 minutes. But a couple days went by and I did not know. And when I found out that it was Monday morning, I was just checking stuff out. I was doing some work and I think I found out on YouTube, someone was talking about Matthew Perry. I said, why are they talking about Matthew Perry so much? I knew that he came out with a book about addiction, about struggles that he had had. And then I saw something pop up, with dash 2023 that would suggest that somebody recently died, right? Like, oh my God. So, we got to analyze our emotions. Man, I was floored by it. And it wasn't because I was just a fan of his. Uh, I I think I related to him in many ways as someone that was dealing with a struggle and that was very open about it for years. I went back into seeing some old interviews from like David Letterman back in the early 2000s. So this is 20 plus years ago. This guy has been talking about addiction and mental health struggles that he has had personally for over 25 years. And he's probably one in a million of the people that actually talk about it publicly. And so I think that that's why it affected me in that way. Because so that happened, but then, and I'll bring it up. I am not trying to like promote our podcast or promote, our website or anything like that, but I do write a lot. I've learned to write out my feelings a lot. And I did write something on the Hospiamo blog, and it was about Matthew Perry. It was 10 days before he passed away that I published it on the Hospiamo blog. And the reason why I wrote it was random. It was because I have this opinion, and I always have, that as a manager of hospitality people at a hotel or a restaurant, mostly, you got to have multiple personalities. And sometimes I felt like I needed to be like a politician, as a hotel GM. I need to be out there, like apply for board memberships and be out there in the community. Sometimes I felt like I needed to tell a joke. I need to make people happy, right? Sometimes I felt like I needed to be a stern business person, right? And say like, it's black, it's white, and then let's move on. Make a decision, move on, and not keep any emotion to it. Sometimes I needed to be a mathematician, and really understand a P&L and margins and a good business manager. So uh, I love some of I'm going to mention Alan Sorkin. So I'm going to mention this, John, real quick, and then I'm going to ask you what you think about it. So Alan Sorkin is a TV and movie writer. Okay, so his first TV series, I think it was his first, was Sports Night in the 90s. And then he is the writer and the creator of West Wing that Matthew Perry was on. He was a lawyer there. He also wrote and created the Social Network movie about Facebook. Many other movies, but he also wrote a lot of people don't know about this series. It only was there for a couple seasons, but Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip is just an amazing TV show, and he wrote it and created it. And he also wrote and created Newsroom. Now, Newsroom is it's probably my favorite. I've seen. I think there's four seasons. It is one of the most beautifully written and created television shows that I've ever seen,
Mm.
and I've seen it on a loop probably about 15 times. Now, he wrote it and created it, and so that's about a 20-year period where he wrote his first, and then he wrote his not his last, hopefully. Now, Matthew Perry was in The West Wing. Matthew Perry was also cast in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. He was not in Sports Night, and he was not in the Newsroom. But then I started thinking about those two characters and how different they were, and then I started thinking about his friend, his character on Friends, Chandler. I was like, wow, these are like three really different characters that Matthew Perry played. And so if you want to see and read our analysis about, we analyzed those three characters. And those three characters, the perspective was all three of them are inside of a hotel general manager or a restaurant general manager all the time. And I call them a chameleon. And so, long story short, John, that emotional roller coaster has to do with there's not one typeset, there's not one characteristic that someone in the service business operates at. You're not always this one person all the time.
Mhm.
You're this chameleon that's being asked to do different things at different times. And I will say it's very difficult to do that. And so it's not ironic, or it's not I don't know what the word is, but when he passed away on Saturday, and I had written that on 10 days before, I was really connected to it, and it really affected me. And so that is what inspired this conversation here today. You and I have known each other a lot of years, and so the topic is, we'll call it mental health in the hospitality industry, but it's as it relates to drug use and alcohol use. What I have found is that people that are very close to me use drugs and alcohol as a way to deal with that emotional roller coaster.
Indeed.
Would you agree? And thank you for being on the show here, John. You're such a
Yeah.
great friend, and thanks for spending time on this. I know it's a sensitive subject, and not a lot of
It
people want
is.
to talk about it, to be
It's
honest, but thank you for being here.
it is a very sensitive subject, and a lot of it has to do not just with the personal effects of life outside the job, but the daily grind. As you know, in hospitality, there's times that you could work 21 days straight without a break. And and I don't mean 21 days straight, but 24 hours on and on and on. But it's just, you go to work, you could be there 10, 12 hours, you go home, hey, how you doing? Eat, go to bed, you're right back up, and it just seems like it's a matter of minutes before you're back again. And after a while, it does take a toll on you. And it doesn't, there's times, as you stated, that it just seems like a vicious cycle that you're not being rewarded. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, then everybody starts to expect it. all the time. And then that one time that you go off character, it's like everybody changes on you. And I think
Interesting. Yeah, when you say everybody expects it, what do they expect? You
they
mean they
expect
expect
you
you
to
to be
be
on all
there
the time?
all the time, always being on, always got to be on. Well,
Mm.
yeah, I can leave it for him because he'll do it or she'll do it. And sometimes you don't mind doing it, but after a while, carrying the load gets pretty heavy, and it becomes a psyche that you carry home, and it overtakes the home base, if you will, meaning that you're bringing the work home, much like don't bring your personal life to work, don't bring your work home. Well, after a certain amount of time, it becomes imbalanced, and the two of them just end up melding. And
That's
what
very
I've
real.
seen,
So
yeah, what I've seen is people do find a way to escape it, try to ease that pain. Maybe it's not meant to. Maybe it's like, oh God, yeah, I kind of like this feeling. It feels always up. I feel good. Yeah, this is great. Um, but what you don't notice is that you see it one way, but people see it a completely different way, and they see the change. And what you think is a good change is not always a change. If I may, um, I used to weightlift heavy a lot. And my big go to was Rip Fuel. Rip Fuel was loaded with Mahung. Um, it is outlawed now. But I will tell you that after taking that, people would say, John, you're changing. You know, I would go off the handle. I would think I was fine, but I would go off the handle and I wouldn't think anything of it. You don't know what you're talking about. And so now you take that to the next level, you know, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, it's the same effect, same exact effect.
it's something that affected your behavior
It did
that it sounds like something that you were not even aware of. And so,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
you know, um, that's interesting. So alcohol, for example, usually, if somebody's drinking whiskey, vodka, even vodka, you can smell it on their breath.
Hmm.
And so if somebody is working with somebody, and in that example, John, with you taking what would you call it? Rip
Rip,
fuel?
rip fuel. Yep.
What was it, like
It
a
was an
pill that you were
anabolic
taking, or?
steroid. It was an anabolic steroid
Wow.
with
Okay.
a mahong, which is an additive for increased stimulant.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you were not aware that it was affecting your behavior,
No,
but also other people were not able to smell it
right.
or see it, or they just saw your behavior and said, I'm sure you have a lot of examples of like, hey, what's going on with John? Like you said, like,
Yep.
there's been a change. Alcohol sometimes can, if somebody goes out and drinks, you know, heavily, or maybe not heavily, but late, and then they fall asleep, take a shower, whatever. They come into work. Somebody might be able to. That person's behavior might not change. They might be completely normal, but if the person smells the alcohol, they
Yeah.
might actually say something to another person that would affect their reputation at the property, or at the workplace, right? So
Mhm.
when all they did was go out the night before, stay up late, and maybe they forgot to brush their teeth, who knows,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
and so, um, you had mentioned before in other conversations of, I call it telephone, but, the
Mhm.
idea of gossip and how fast it goes.
Yes.
So there might be like a lawyer that's watching this. There might be a doctor, or there might be a front desk agent at a hotel. There might be a server or bartender, or my brother Matt. So shout out to my brother Matt. He's on vacation right now. He's I think he's in Greece,
Nice. Love
of
Greece.
all places. Yeah, Rome and Greece. So shout out to my bro Matt, who's the co-host here. So send a message to Matt at agilegamechangers.com. So I mean, we encompass a wide variety of industries, right? And so, but particularly, I'll tell you, on a positive level, our industry is awesome.
It is.
My, besides my family and like the friends that I met that I've known since high school and college, all my friends are in this industry. All my friends
Mhm.
are, from people that I've worked with, people that I worked for, um, even guests that I've gotten to know over the years, become friends. And so it's a very fun industry. And so, but here's what we don't have, John. I don't think that we have a lot of outlets
No, we do not.
for empathy, right? So
For
for
empathy, for anybody that you can talk to, it's a closed knit industry. It's a fun industry, but it's not an industry that you can open up to. And I don't
mm,
mean open up, hey, I'm having a baby, or I just got a new puppy, or this. It's very select on how you can say and what you can talk to, who you can talk to about any
yeah,
pivotal changes in your life.
it's very much in line with uh close relationships, in that, let me think about this for a minute. So we we say that we're close with somebody,
Hmm.
right? Oh, that's my best friend. He's up there in California. He lives in Montana. He's my best friend, or she's my best friend, but how often do we actually talk to our best friends and encourage them to be honest about something that they might be dealing with?
Hmm.
Such as, instead of I want to say it was Simon Sinek, who I watch on LinkedIn a lot. I got a few of his books. Phenomenal leadership author and communication author. So if you want to check out his stuff, Simon Sinek, Sinek. Um, he runs a company called Optimism something. So if you find Simon Sinek Optimism, look him up. But I think it was him that was talking about, like, and he said, like, how often do you actually ask your best friend, not how are you doing? How's your marriage?
Hmm.
Don't ask how your kids are. Ask whether or not they're dealing with something that's serious, such as in high school, if they're dealing with something that's, relationship wise, or with potential danger and things like that. And so um, we constantly say, "How are you doing?" rather than saying, "Tell me about your marriage." And our marriage, if you're in a marriage, is something that's very core to our reality. We can also ask the same thing of people that we work with, and it's not like, "Hey, how's it going?" Be like, "Hey, I want to ask you how it's going, but can we spend 10 minutes and just talk about our lives for a minute, like in closed doors? Let's go have a coffee." And then if you're somebody's leader, the I think the best way to have somebody else open up and talk about the things that they might be dealing with is for yourself to open up,
Right.
right? And
Exactly.
so you and I have had a lot of those conversations, right? I've
Yes, we
opened up
do.
to you, you've opened up to me, and we have this relationship now. And so but we also have, call it 100 and maybe a thousand others that we've opened up to, and they've all opened up to other people. And so I think that it can be implemented with just a conversation. And so I call it telephone. Um, but it's also the topic of gossip and on the negative side. And so, if you are sitting in a, you just described it to me before we were
Hmm.
recording, John. If you're sitting at a table with 8 people, it's a circle, and what I call telephone, which is you whisper something to the person on your right, and you give them some facts and figures. And I'm going to do this ad lib and say there are 100 people in the world that are eating 400 cheeseburgers and they hate French fries, but they love ketchup. And you say that to the person to your right, but there's 8 people, right? And then the person says their job is to repeat the same thing that they just heard to the next person. And then what the social experiment is that by the time you come out to the last person, what I just said, they said 100% of the time is not accurate to what the person tells me at the end, right? And so that just describes gossip. And so back to what we were talking about related to the person that comes in after a night of partying or whatever, they're on time, but somebody smells whiskey on their breath, let's say, or maybe they're noticing your behavior's wrong. Whatever wrong is, who knows? And then they tell another person, "Hey, Bob just came in. It's 8 in the morning, and I smell alcohol on his breath." Well, maybe it's not alcohol. Maybe it's a peppermint that the guy has on his breath. Who knows? But maybe it is alcohol. Maybe it's something that he's out there having a couple drinks the night before and didn't brush his teeth. And then they tell one person, and then that person tells another person, and another person. And then after a day or two, all of a sudden, Bob's an alcoholic and he needs to be talked to by human resources, and he might lose his job.
Yep.
And if he loses his job, he's going to lose his income. And everyone suffers at that point. And a lot of times it has to do with um, the alternative, which could have been, "Hey, Bob, I smell alcohol on your breath. Do you want to sit down for 10 minutes and talk about that?" That's the same thing as saying to your best friend, "How's your marriage?" rather than "How are you doing?"
Hmm.
That's how I kind of equate that, John. I know you don't think I'm crazy, but I mean, we got
No,
umbrellas that we deal with all the
that's it.
time. And so does that make
It
sense?
makes perfect sense. Anymore, I usually don't say how you doing. And if I do, it's in a jokingly way. But usually anymore, it's how's life. And that just sums everything up. Life is life. Well, what do you mean? Talk to me. Set it off. It's gotten into the world today that people just are closed off, and I think so more so in the last 3 years than in before, and it's made communication quite hard, and we need to get back to the openness and the feel goodness of the human population instead of being enclosed and closed amongst each other. Um, as you stated, I mean, I personally have a very very hard time talking about myself. I have a very hard time opening up. There's been a couple of times I've had a hard time talking to you about it, to where tears started coming down. It's
Yeah.
that's not the tears of embarrassment. It's not the tears of pain. It's the tears of hardness that it's hard for me to get it out. And but once you do, and once you start, you find that it becomes very easy. It becomes a daily thing. And what you had said, writing it down helps so much getting it out of your head, because there's no answer that can be answered by a question that you ask yourself. It never happened.
You know, I love that you said that, and we can start to wrap up here. Writing it down, it could be in a text, it could be in an email, it could be in your Evernote, or it could be in your notes on your iPhone, and sending it to somebody. Um, I've sent this to you before, and not to you personally, but I've copied you on stuff with people
Hmm.
that are other new relationships, and I say no need to respond.
Right.
NNTR. No need to respond. And what I'm saying is that I am venting to you.
Hmm.
You don't need to respond. And when I tell them that, now it takes more than one time. It takes maybe 4 or 5. I mean, my brother and I have this relationship where I still need to tell him if it's, by way of a text or an email, I need to tell him that I'm venting. I'm not asking for you to fix anything for me.
Right.
I'm not telling you that I'm, in a crisis right now. It might sound like I am. It might sound like I'm destitute or I'm dealing with something that's, like, massive. And when I send this email, it looks like I'm vomiting.
Hmm.
And so when somebody throws up and vomits, what do? You think like, "Oh my god, I gotta help this person," right? And so as an outlet, and as what we're talking about here, I will say to everyone listening that if you are feeling a certain way and you think of that one person that you can say, "I just want to text you," or "I just wanna email you my thoughts. Please don't respond. I'm fine, but I need to get this out.
Right.
I need to get it out."
Absolutely.
And John, you're one of those friends for me. I've been very honest with you about stuff that I'm dealing with. It took me a while, right?
Hmm.
It took me a while to be more open and vulnerable with you. The same way it takes me a long while, and I'm still working on all that stuff. I'm working on being open and vulnerable with other people because I kind of had these walls built around me for the first, call it 15, 20, 25 years of my career as like, oh, Adam can be the one that can go help the other person. So therefore, Adam needs to be strong all the time. Well, if I need to be strong all the time, what does that look like when I'm weak? And so not in my personal life, well, somewhat in my personal life, but a lot of times in my professional life, the idea of looking weak made me feel like I was not going to be able to, get a job 5 years from now or like get a promotion that I was looking for. Like, oh no, Adam's weak. And so, well, being vulnerable, what we have learned together and what I have learned is that being vulnerable and humble is actually strong.
Hmm.
Being able to send somebody a text that says, "Hey, I am struggling with something big time." I got a text 2 weeks ago from a friend that I used to work with, but we've become friends. And he said, "I'm drinking again." And I knew what that meant. I knew that he had been going through uh, sobriety for over, I want to say over 5, 6 years. And I just said, "Do you want to talk about it?" No. Do you have a sponsor? Because I know that he had gone through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, "Yes." Good. What can I do for you? This is all via text, right? And I can even read the text to you. I would have to go back and find it, but he said, "All I wanted to do was tell you."
Hmm.
And it almost brings me to tears right now because, that's what he's saying. All I wanted to do was to tell you. And I had a very hard time not, uh I think I've evolved over my life because 15 years ago, I would have said, "Hey, I just bought a plane ticket to come to where he is, and I'm gonna be there for you." But that's not what he wanted, right? He just
Hmm.
wanted to say here, but many years before, I was when I would say, my worth as a person was to go there physically and to help him fix his problem.
Right.
and we were there for each other in that way. But now, as we've evolved as humans and matured a little bit, I listened better, and he said, I don't need I don't need anything from you. I just want to know that you received this text and that you know that I'm dealing with this." And man, I will tell you that that's the one of the more deepest things that I've received and had to go through myself. And so as we go through all this in hospitality, John, I think there's 60,000 hotels in the United States. That's about, call it $600 billion worth of hotel real estate. Multiply that by 10. That's how many restaurants there are. Do you know that? There's about
Mhm.
600,000 restaurants in the United States. And our job in the hospitality industry is to serve others. And we take it very seriously. And when things don't go well one day, that doesn't mean that you're striking out for your life. That just means you struck out. And my son is a big baseball player and a fan, and the number 1,330 has always been something of our family, and that's how many times Babe Ruth has struck out. 1,330 times Babe Ruth, the best player in the history of baseball, failed miserably 1,330 times. And he has said, and many other people that I've used that number with have said that that's been helpful to them to understand that, like, they're not alone. Even the best in the entire world are dealing with something. And we've all seen movies and read about Babe Ruth, and that his life was not perfect. And we are not perfect. We are not we can see the movie like Good Will Hunting and listen to Robin Williams talk about the psychology of living day by day. We can talk about Matthew Perry to bring this back full circle. I'm going to go back, John, and make a commitment to you. I'm going to go back and look at what I wrote about Matthew Perry related to hotel general managers. And I honestly, I think it was well done. I didn't touch on this emotional roller coaster. I did talk about how you got to be a diplomat, you got to be a politician, you got to be a business manager, you got to be a humorist and deal with a lot of different people and personalities. But at the same time, we're here recording this and we're here streaming this live, and it's a very personal thing. So I want to send a shout out to anybody that's dealing with anything. Try to find an outlet, and if you can't find an outlet, well, not if you can't find an outlet, find an outlet, right? Find anybody and just be open with them to say, I'm dealing with something. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to tell me to listen for a moment. And a lot of times, John, I mean, that's the human resources department.
Mhm.
Would you agree? I mean, it's almost like the human resources department in a hospitality organization. I mean, it's maybe not by law, but they're supposed to be there to exist, to listen.
Yep.
And they're the ones that are supposed to be saying these things to these people, to be like, hey, you can tell me whatever you want. You can tell me that that you started drinking again after 5 years. I want your help. And I'm not going to go tell your boss, and you're not going to get fired or written up for it, or the telephone conversation to go around about gossip. You can trust me. And so you and I grew up in the industry with a fairly large human resources department in our organizations, and even if it's a small company, and HR departments have become smaller and almost eliminated sometimes. And so
Yeah, I
I
think
would
that's
tell
why
you
they
the
changed
outlet, If I had a hashtag for this episode, it would be about having an outlet, a trusted
Absolutely.
one. What do you think about all that?
I absolutely agree. I think that's why HR, if you notice, human culture manager is starting to take place of HR manager. The persona is becoming it's stigmatized, if you will, for lack of better words. The HR person, instead of taking care of all the necessities, is starting to become a people culture entity for the hospitality industry. And I think this could be a good thing. If they do it right and they bring in the right people, I think it'll be done right.
Yeah, thanks, man. So if you're listening to this, you're more than welcome to email me, Adam, at hospiamo.com. If you need an outlet, just send me your stuff. I will make a commitment to you. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to send it to anybody. We can have a conversation, and there are many outlets that I can forward you over, or I'd say support systems. I really think that, John, that there's an underbelly of issues going on in our industry, and those issues don't get better unless somebody's able to talk to somebody about it, and
Absolutely agree.
freely, without the expectation that their career is going to end or get hurt in some way. So yeah, man, John, thanks for, I don't know, this what are we on, episode number 24 right now. I started this with my brother, and the idea was just to start talking about the things in our various industries and bring people together. But really, we wanted to stay consistent, and we've been that. We've done that 24 weeks in a row, and but we also wanted to get a little bit better each week, and I think that we've also done that. I think there's been a couple weeks we've gotten worse, and that's okay. Um, but really, what the point is we don't really know what the topic is going to be next week. Whereas I think a lot of other professional podcasts and live events, they have a schedule, and we started with a schedule. And as Mike Tyson said, one of my teacher mentors out there, he said, you can have a plan for going into a fight, but that plan gets thrown out the second you get punched in the face. And so that happened very quickly, where we had a plan, and I said, "Oh yeah, we can do this for that week. We can do that for that week." And so, thanks for exploring this with me, and kind of watching me stumble around trying to figure stuff out. But this is a platform at the end of the day. And it's not my platform. It's not yours. It's not my brother's. It's just a platform for people to jump on, and I consistently invite people in to speak their thoughts. And the fact that you spend time with me publicly talking about these things, it puts you on another level of humanity and vulnerability, and being open to talking about these things. So, John, thank you sincerely,
It was my pleasure. I always
my
enjoy
brother.
that.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching. Our billions and billions of fans out there that send me billions of messages. Thanks, everybody. We're going to end the recording and end the session, and you all take care. Thank you.
Have a great day.